Good morning, America. Good morning, patriots of America. Wow, what a day today is going to be. Today is actually November the 30th, the year 2020. And I want to take a few minutes and explain to you, Professor Toto, by the way, if you don't know me, from the TNN network, Toto's News Network, where we only promote faith instead of fear. And I want to explain to you why today is huge. And you need to have an understanding of this so that your nerves can calm down. Your nerves need to calm down and know what's going on in America today and how you can prepare and have faith and hope about what's happening today. Good morning, all of you, my students. God bless you. Thank you for following me on Facebook, Vaughn45. Thank you for joining our Facebook group, Professor Totos, Defenders of the Republic. Thank you for following me on Parler. In case they kick me off of YouTube, I'll meet you over there. Here's the big news today. America has a new set of courts. Today is called an evidentiary hearing for a reason, because there is a new set of courts in America. All of you have been worried about these judges turning down all of our petitions. By the way, we had one last night in Georgia. What about Georgia, right? You realize what happened there. So just for those of you that don't know, I'll explain it. First, we had an order to freeze the ballot machines. And that first order was only a freeze, I think, for 48 hours. Then the judge came back 30 minutes later, rescinded the order. And then that amazing attorney, Lynn Wood, was working till late in the night with that judge and got the order reissued, this time for 10 days instead of 48 hours. For 10 days, they cannot touch those elections. It's a great victory in Georgia. You ought to be some excited patriots today. Your president's going to be reelected. And the reason it is because of the new courts in America. Forget these judges. Forget them. They are not the judges anymore. Let me tell you who the new judges are. The state legislators. In part 2, I want you to go watch it on my YouTube channel. I explained to you 2 weeks ago another legal path of victory for our president. And I said, what's even better than the House and the Congress and the Supreme Court would be if the state legislators did their constitutional duty, stepped up, and did their job. Today in Arizona, we now have another hearing like we had in Pennsylvania. Why is this so important? Because if we can get one of these states to fall, all the other states will take their lead. You know, nobody likes to go first, right? Nobody likes to go first in life. Everybody wants somebody to lead the way. We're looking for a leader. We had one in Pennsylvania with the senator there. Today, we're headed back. And by the way, they said the crowds are massive outside of Arizona today, outside of that, wherever they're having their meeting. The crowds are massive. Good job, patriots. So today is an evidentiary hearing to hear the evidence. Since the courts won't do it, and by the way, the courts do not have constitutional authority to overturn these slate of electors. I don't even know why we're wasting time in court. The court is in session today. The legislators are the new judges of America today. They're going to listen to the evidence. Do you know how wide our majority is in Arizona, in the House of Representatives? We hold a 36-24 majority. All we need today is for the evidence to do for these legislators what it did for the ones in Pennsylvania, to where they can't sleep at night, knowing that this fraud election might go all the way to the end. These men are our heroes today. I want you to pray and pray and pray, if you believe in prayer, for God to touch their hearts and their minds, to be able to open their eyes from the darkness and see this evidence. Why? Because these are the new judges. If Arizona sees the same evidence that Pennsylvania saw and it affects those people, they could very easily decertify that election. Let me explain why that is. A lot of people are very confused. A lot of people tell me, they say, Professor, why would they overturn the will of the people? All right, that's a great question. It goes back to what I taught you in America 101. If you've not watched America 101, you're missing out. Please go watch it. I taught you in America 101 that we are not a democracy. We are a republic, okay? Our founding fathers were more scared of a democracy than they were a monarchy. Most Americans, if you tell them that, they won't believe you. The founders were scared to death of a democracy. They did not want to create a democracy. Anytime you hear someone say, we are a democracy, you're listening to a globalist. Start listening for that keyword, republic. We are a republic. And when you understand that we're a republic, then all of a sudden the quote unquote will of the people become a mystical. In Professor Toto's class, we pull the curtain back on all the lies. The will of the people is a lie. And here's why. Stay with me. Because the will of the people are run by emotions that change today and then go to something else tomorrow. In a republic, you need something more solid than the will of the people. For example, it might be the will of the people to go out and the Salem witch trials was the will of the people, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Right? The Salem witch trials was the will and the motions of the mob taking over, and the majority wanted to kill all those witches. Had we had then what we have now, a stronger constitutional republic, the Salem witch trials would have never happened. Why? There would have been laws on the book that would have prevented that. So when it comes to the will of the people in Arizona, the will of the people is fixing to run headlong into the law of the land. At the end of the day, if the law of the land has been broken, you can have the will of the people all day long, whatever you want to have. For example, all the people that started Black Lives Matter because of that gentleman killing the black guy and putting the knee on his neck, the mobs went out, but you're not going to change that cop's sentence one iota. He can only be sentenced according to the law of the land. Today, the legislators, they are the law of the land. Their law, the United States Constitution says that the power to choose electors lies solely with the legislators. They are the ones, if they are convinced today that there was fraud, remember, fraud vitiates everything. So let's act like you're on the legislator today. You're one of them. Let's say you're sitting there. You have the power to affect this election. And you're sitting there and you see evidence after evidence of fraud. Now, by the way, have you heard anybody tell you, show us the evidence? There's no evidence. Let me give you the legal definition of the word affidavit. If you'll go look up affidavit, if you want to go Google it, AFFADAVIT, go look it up. You will find that the definition of the word affidavit is evidence in court. An affidavit is evidence, and we have over 500 signed, sworn to affidavits. Do you know when you sign an affidavit that you are signing under the penalty of going to jail if you're lying? Do you understand that? That's called evidence. It's the most powerful tool we have in the republic is a sworn affidavit. So now you've got all these people that's going before the legislators with their sworn affidavits in their hands. This is the legislators today is the court. Folks, we're going to court today. You've been waiting, if we could just get a judge. Today you're going to get 36 judges that are Republican. 24 Democrats. You're going to get 36 that have the power in their hands. Act like you're one of them. And you see all this evidence that, you know what? This election may not be technically representing the will of the people. This election is fraud. And what did the Supreme Court tell us in 17? That fraud vitiates everything, right? What does that mean? Vitiate means it's like in a marriage that is annulled. There's a difference in a divorce and an annulment. In the Holy Church, if we recognize that a marriage, and let me just give you a lesson from a minister. If we recognize, let's just say you married a man right now, and that man comes to you a week later and says, honey, I think I like men more than I do women. Well, Had you known that before you married him, you would never have married that little backward sucker, right? Because you understand that that's not what you were marrying. That was fraud. Let's say you marry somebody and you find out they were a mass murderer 10 years ago and they didn't tell you that before you married them. Your marriage contract is now built on fraud. Every contract falls apart when fraud is discovered and determined, because the fraud muddies the water. Nobody knows what's what anymore. So as soon as this fraud in court today is proven, these legislators, just like you, will go to bed tonight. They will lay down. They will think. That's when these seeds start working in their mind. And they'll think, you know what? Something's wrong. And when they understand something's wrong, fraud will now vitiate the election. Because the truth is, if there was fraud, there is no election. Let me tell you how important this is. One of the ladies I saw in the news last night just won her election by 6 votes. If somebody knows her name, you might want to educate the class. It's me. I just saw your comment. Surprising Toto isn't streaming it. You know what? I'm not streaming it, but here's the link. If y'all want to go, there you go. There's the link you can click on and go watch the live stream. It's going to start in about an hour, I think. But they said people are lined up as far as you can see. See, guys, the Republic is rising. Believe me when I tell you that. The Republic is rising. So these legislators now, they're going to hear the evidence. So you're like, what's the next step? Okay, real simple. They decide fraud vitiates everything. We cannot certify this election. So one or two things are going to happen. How many electoral votes? Somebody put on the screen how many electoral votes Arizona has. I don't remember. Oh, somebody's watching from Canada. Love Canada. Long live the Queen. Okay, so however many electoral votes they have, and I'm watching the screen to see what it is, they can choose one or two things. There's 11. Thank you, Rebecca. So now you have, remember we started at Pennsylvania, correct? 20 electoral votes over there, and we've already got that one working. Now we're at Arizona. There's 11 there. If these states simply do not send their electors on January the 6th because they can't in good conscience, we don't need a court. We don't even need a Supreme Court at that point. We don't need nothing, because the legislators decide if they're sending electors to the Congress. Isn't that wonderful? When you understand these things, you start seeing it doesn't matter who's turning us down here, who's turning us down there. Now, where does the Supreme Court come in? If these legislators fail, that's our next step. But our prayer and your prayer as a republic today needs to be for righteous men and women in Arizona to see the fraud. We've already had it happen in Pennsylvania, seeing the fraud. When they hear these words in their heads, then words don't leave, folks. They stay in there, okay? So they can just suit. So there's Pennsylvania and Arizona. That's 31 electoral votes that disappears in Joe Biden's column, right? And then whatever happens in Georgia, that's how close we are to overturning this election to the legitimate president. You know, the word corona means crown in Spanish. And this disease has been used to crown a false leader. God's people are praying against it, and you need to fight against it. If you live in any of these battleground states, get involved, take off your jobs, do whatever you need to do, get active, let them see the republic is rising. So if they choose not to send their electors, or they can choose to reverse their electors and send Donald Trump's electors. It's totally up to the legislators. So pray, saints, pray, saints, pray, saints. And if you have anybody that's confused about today, thank you for those like buttons. They're going up. We're at 200. Thank you. If you're watching this and you hadn't hit the like button, let me explain why we ask for like buttons, not to build our ego. I don't need my ego built. But here's what we do need. Every time you hit one, it goes higher in the algorithm on YouTube, and they share it with more people as a suggested video. That's why we do that, so you know. So anyway, if we win these legislators over, ladies and gentlemen, it's over with. If we don't, we go to the Supreme Court. If we don't win there, Then we go to the 12th Amendment in the House of Representatives. We've got winning paths all over the place. Don't you dare give up. This party is just getting started. I'm Professor Toto, and I love you, students. God bless you. And I'm watching all day. I'm going to be here if something exciting happens. I'll pop back on. Have a good day, everybody.